So can I echo the best wishes to King Charles and the Duchess of Rothesay and wish them both a speedy recovery. Presiding Officer, confusion about the ban of XL dogs in Scotland has brought dangerous dogs back into the headlines. Today, the SNP government will finally make a statement, and I hope they take action. But like so many issues, it is only when media pressure builds that SNP ministers respond. Too often they act on headlines rather than the evidence. In the last Parliament, I sat on the Public Audit and Post-Legislative Scrutiny Committee when it produced a report on the 2010 Control of Dogs Act. The cross-party committee called for a review of the law and the focus to be on irresponsible owners and breeders. The Government accepted the findings of the committee and committed to a review in 2019. So can I ask the First Minister, nearly 5 years on, why are we still waiting?
First Minister.
Can I say, of course, there was something that happened between 2020 and, of course, the current time, and that was a global pandemic, which, of course, undoubtedly resulted in the fact that other work had to be delayed. I think most individuals would accept that. In terms of the XL bully safeguards that the UK Government have brought in, they, of course, made that announcement without a single word of consultation with the Scottish Government. I suspect if at that point I had said to Anas Sarwar that yes, we will take immediate action, he would have demanded what consultation we had had. So it was right that Siobhan Brown took the time to have consultation with, of course, animal welfare stakeholders, with those who are involved in animal rehoming centres. I should say the Scottish Government still absolutely believes that the correct approach is indeed not breed, but we have to also be able to respond to the fact that we've seen media reports of a number of people bringing their XL bully dogs over the border to Scotland. So we have consulted, we have taken time to engage, and we will bring forward safeguards. And it should be said, this is not a ban. Of course, people will still be able to have their XL bully dogs if they, of course, meet the criteria of the regulations that are brought forward. But let me say to Anas Sarwar, that when it comes to the stricter regime that we have in terms of the Control of Dogs Act, in terms of the various notices and the stricter regime that we have here in Scotland, I'm pleased that we have a strict regime here in Scotland that isn't available elsewhere in the UK.
Anas Sarwar.
I know the First Minister is not good in the detail, but the review of the Control of Dogs Act was in the programme for government in 2021 during COVID. So I'm not sure that excuse holds any water. In 2022 alone, victims were treated in Scotland's hospital a reported 7,600 times for injuries inflicted by dogs. These dogs were out of control, often mistreated or poorly trained by their owners. Many of the injuries people sustained disfigured them for life. Kirstine Hobson is a postwoman in Oban. In December, she was brutally attacked by a German Shepherd and sustained serious injuries to her face, leg and arm and needed specialist plastic surgery. She'll be scarred for life, emotionally and physically. But nothing that the Government is announcing today would have helped Kirstine. The Government promised 5 years ago to take action against irresponsible owners and breeders, not just an individual breed. So if the Government can act on XL bullies, what will it take for them to protect people like Kirstine and so many others that they have repeatedly promised to do?
First Minister.
My sympathy goes to Kirstine for the injuries that she has suffered. But just to say to Anas Sarwar, of course, that we did take action on the back of the work done in 2019. That's why we have a really important regime of dog control notices. That is the regime that I'm talking about that does not exist in England and Wales. And if Anas Sarwar had the detail in front of him, he would know that. He would also know, of course, that there are currently more than 1,200 active dog control notices in place in Scotland. And XL bully dogs, we know, represent 2% of those DCNs that are in force. So one dog attack is, of course, one too many, and we've taken a whole range of actions to protect communities as best we possibly can. And that dog control notice regime that we do have undoubtedly will help in that regard. But we'll continue to work with Police Scotland, with local authorities, with the SSPCA and indeed other relevant interests to keep communities safe from the very small minority, and we should be clear about that, it's a very small minority of irresponsible dog owners for their dangerous dogs.
Anas Sarwar.
7,600 treatments in hospital related to dog attacks in one single year. I don't think the First Minister should be playing that down, because that will be of extreme concern to families across the country. Humza Yousaf was, of course, Justice Secretary when this Government promised to review the Control of Dogs Act, and still nothing has happened. People like Kirstine shouldn't have to be fearful when they go to work. and parents shouldn't have to fear for their kids when they take them to the park. This government has a responsibility to protect people, not just respond to bad headlines. But too often, sadly, that is the case. We saw it with the infection scandal at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. We saw it last week and again today with the post office scandal. And now we see it with XL bully dogs. So this government must commit to stronger powers for councils and the police and make it clear that the responsibility for dogs lies with owners and breeders. So does he accept that we can't wait until another 7,000 people are harmed before this government fixes the Control of Dogs Act?
First Minister.
Can I say to Anas Sarwar, his third question there took no account at all of the response that I gave to his previous question. That is the problem, because Anas Sarwar says we failed to act. If he had stopped just reading the pre-prepared script, he would have, of course, heard me say that we brought in a DCN regime, that dog control notice regime that came in, that does not exist in England and Wales. And the fact that we have that in place has meant, of course, that we have more than 1,200 active dog control notices in place as we speak. So we'll continue to work, of course, with Police Scotland, with local authorities, the SSPCA and other relevant stakeholders to keep our communities safe. We've established on top of that an operational working group involving local authorities, Police Scotland, COSLA and key stakeholders to progress this work. We've also commissioned a national dog control notice database to help enforcement agencies better monitor the control of dogs. When it comes to having to respond to the UK Government's actions, and that's what we're having to do in this case, wouldn't it be far better that we didn't have to always respond to what the UK Government does and instead have the full powers here in Scotland, Presiding Officer?